Welcome to the Blue Cafe. We offer stories of infidelity, betrayal, and redemption. Please like and subscribe. Cheers. Now, on to today's story. D-Day 1 was 2 months ago today and I am still just as conflicted. Need support. TLDR, my marriage wasn't perfect and I had plenty of reasons to leave my husband, but I didn't, and then he deployed and cheated, EA and PA, and came home and continued it as EA and lied and gaslit and now wants to reconcile, but it feels like this was the last straw and we are separating. Will I ever recover? Will we ever recover from this? Should we even try? If you can read this all the way through, then huge kudos and thanks. This is so much longer than I ever anticipated. I am devastated that I am even on this sub. I can honestly say that never in a million years did I think I'd be here posting about my marriage. My marriage was a good one. My husband was amazing. He was honest and loyal and hardworking and sincere and handsome and generous and wonderful. But he could be mean, distant, judgmental, thoughtless, and selfish. For better or for worse though, right? I admit that things hadn't been great, my feelings never seemed to matter and my efforts were never good enough. He didn't treat me with respect, more like an object. I had very little interest in intimacy with him because I could tell he didn't want me, he just wanted to have sex. I made sure that I didn't let more than a month go by without having it, but I didn't feel that overwhelming urge to be with him. It was more like a monthly chore. He was constantly groping me and making me feel gross whenever he was near. I'd find myself instinctively recoiling from his touch, even in front of the children. I did the majority of the childcare for our 3 kids. He worked a lot, often gone every other weekend, or was busy with renovating our home, working on his car, and when he was home I encouraged him to go out and be with friends. I liked being home with the kids and always thought it was good for him to foster friendships, but he'd come home so late after drinking and I'd worry about his safety the whole time he was gone. I never ever worried about his fidelity, though. He drank heavily for a while, that made him more mean. I don't often drink, so he spent years of our marriage drinking alone. But he did cut down, thank God. Alcoholism runs in his family. He was supposed to deploy in April 2020 on a 6-month tour. He'd be back by October, no snow shoveling, no missing major holidays, I'd take the summer off with the kids, it would be over in no time. COVID struck in March and all of a sudden we were home with our kids. He was delayed until July. We spent those months just being a family, spending quality time with each other, being really present and appreciating it more because we knew our time was limited. I enjoyed him again, I had fun with him and I wanted him. We were intimate more with each other in the 2 months before he left than probably the entire year prior. We were good, legitimately good. COVID had worked wonders on a marriage that, just 2 years prior, had me trying to convince him to go to marriage counseling. He never acquiesced. I missed him while he was gone. The summer was fine, but between virtual school and virtual work and a lack of support and more delays, I began to get frustrated and exhausted. I sent care packages and set alarms to wake up at a good time to chat with him. By Christmas I was burnt out and upset a lot. Every delay had me fuming. He ended up staying more than 7 months. He didn't get the break to come home, he wasn't calling as often, when he did they were short, and I was snoozing my alarms more and more frequently. Finally, February arrived and it was time for him to come home to me. Valentine's Day I didn't hear from him all day despite calling and messaging him. I didn't know what the plan was for his departure the next day. I wanted to connect with my husband, but I assumed it was a busy farewell day. I got a text from him at 10:30 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. on the 15th his time. He'd been so wrapped up he'd forgotten. He came home disappointed, his homecoming wasn't good enough, we'd had a giant snowfall and I didn't make it back from picking up the kids until he was already home, the house wasn't clean enough for his standards, I hadn't taken vacation to spend time with him even though I was working from home and literally we were all locked down together for the next 2 weeks. He told me he'd had some major breakthroughs overseas and was going to be a better man. More patient, more kind, I didn't see it, though. We celebrated a mini Christmas, giving him all the gifts that had been waiting for him. He gave me a pair of $1,000 shoes that didn't fit and was displeased when I returned them. How could I not have recognized such an extravagant guilt gift? He began vaping weed nightly, legal here, but sometimes couldn't even wait for the kids to go to sleep. He'd never done that at all before he left. I don't know if he was trying to escape his life at home, his memories, his guilt, maybe, but it was very out of character. He asked me to help him send a care package for a friend. I curated a makeup bag for this friend who had never received one from her own friends and family. Poor thing. I bought special items and chocolate per his request for him to pack. I was such a fool. He was always on his phone. He'd even text from bed. Stupid me, I assumed it was only due to the time change. A week after Valentine's Day he forgot our anniversary. 2 days after the forgotten anniversary I caught him adding more personal items to the care pack, including one of his shirts. I asked him about it. I told him I would understand, he'd been gone so long somewhere scary and isolating and it would be normal to want to bond with someone else for comfort. I needed his honesty and we could get through this, but if he lied I could never forgive him. Had he been unfaithful while he was gone? Of course, he lied to my face. So convincingly and expertly he gaslit me and I walked away from that conversation honestly believing him. If he'd been smart enough to end it then, or even just not been so sketchy with his phone the next few days following, I'd still probably believe him. The phone charger in the kitchen is located above the dishwasher. He never charged his phone in a room he wasn't in. He even took it into the bathroom while he showered. The day after I had asked him if he had been unfaithful, as I approached the dishwasher with dirty dinner plates in hand, he ran in front of me and unplugged his phone and took it away. It hadn't been there 10 minutes. That gave it away, something was on that phone. It wasn't until the next night as I swept the dining room and he took out the garbage that I had the opportunity. I knew exactly who I was looking for at that point. He'd tell stories about his till that always somehow came back to her, the care package I had helped him make, the night I rolled over in bed and saw her name across the top of the screen while he texted from beside me. And it was all there. And it shook me to my core to read the things he'd written to her. It made me feel physically ill. It broke my heart. 9 years of marriage, 11 years together, I'd not been with anyone but him since I was 20 years old. I'd spent 7 months struggling without him, missing him, keeping it all together during a global pandemic so he could deploy on this once-in-a-lifetime tour. And now that he was finally back, he was wishing he was still there with her in his arms. I was shaking. I didn't eat or sleep for 2 full days. At this point I'm still struggling to get more than 5 hours, and they're filled with nightmares. I weigh less than I did at 13, and I've had 3 kids. I told him to sleep in the basement. I knew. He deleted everything and tried to show me there was nothing to see. I sent him back the screenshots I'd taken to remind him of what he'd said. We were still in lockdown, I couldn't kick him out. He did everything wrong, blame shifting, gaslighting, intimidation, continuing to lie. D-Day 2 wouldn't come for another week, until after I reached out to her and confirmed it had been a physical affair, not just what he claimed was exclusively flirtation and excitement and validation that I never gave to him. In that week we started marriage counseling. He was still full of lies, and he didn't apologize, just blame and self-pity and bullshit. I actually had to ask him to apologize to me. I had to lay out everything I needed from him as though he were a toddler. He now has a daily reminder to apologize in his phone. He was cruel and insensitive for weeks. Blamed anything he could, the deployment, his mental health, my father. He was relentless. He's a coward and a liar and a cheater, who so disrespected me that he actually apologized for not taking off his ring while he committed adultery. For not wearing a condom. For not remembering he was married. For not thinking I would ever actually leave him. If it weren't for this I probably never would have, though looking back on the last 9 years I certainly would have been justified in doing so many times over. My therapist believes he is a narcissist. That every boundary or ultimatum I've given he has trampled on and I never follow through with the consequences. Here's the thing, though, I love him. I love his smile and the way he smells. I love how big and strong and warm his embrace is. I love his sense of humor and his sense of optimism. I love how active and invested he is in our family. He's a wonderful father. My kids will be devastated at his leaving again, but they're used to him not being around, so at least there is that. He is doting on me now, spoiling me, showering me with affection and love and treats, trying to convince me that he's changed and that it had never happened before and will never happen again. His apologies over the last month have been genuine and sincere and full of remorse. He's acknowledged that I am not to blame and that his depression was so severe and uncontrolled that he distanced himself from me and thought I was the cause of his unhappiness, but he was wrong and it was only in his head and the depression caused the meanness and disrespect, but he's getting better now. I want to believe him. I wish he hadn't been such a good liar so I could believe what he says now. I miss the man my husband was. It feels like an imposter returned in his place. He wasn't perfect, but he had integrity. He wasn't always easy to be around, but he made my life better. I read on here about balancing scales. That was our marriage, occasionally solidly great, usually fine and balanced, sometimes not that good, but never actually outright bad. I still love him, albeit less, but I don't trust him at all. We are working on a separation agreement. He doesn't want to, but he's doing it for me. I need space. I need to not be triggered by the sight of him. I need to not have to be his pillar of strength when he spirals. I need to learn to be more than just his wife. He won't get his new place until mid-June. It feels like it can't come soon enough, but simultaneously I am broken up that he is really moving out. Ideally we will take this time to work on ourselves and eventually come back together and see if there is anything worth trying to save. I'd like to think there will be, but if being married didn't stop him, I can't imagine being separated will keep him faithful and honest with me. Over the last month and a half I've seen a lot of growth. He is going back to church, he is attending therapy and psychiatry, taking medication and finding joy in things he'd previously become bitter about, and he's confessing to the people I'm telling him to confess to. He's reading books on recovering from infidelity and he's being more present and dedicated to providing quality time, and we're hysterically bonding, whatever and whenever I want, which is nice for a change, and some days it feels like it used to feel, like it's supposed to feel, but on others I just don't want him anywhere near me. The pain of his betrayal, his deceit, his contempt for me, his lack of consideration or respect, they aren't present anymore, but I can't shake them. The intrusive thoughts and images and triggers and feelings of despair are still so overwhelming I can't imagine ever being rid of them enough to enjoy my life with him again. I can't imagine growing old with this man who is not the one I married. In some ways, on some days, he is better. He has been everything I have ever hoped he could be, like the ideal husband, so attentive and considerate and passionate and kind. I'm finding myself increasingly falling into old habits and feelings, but that is not a way forward, that's a way back. I want to stay here in this place that's familiar, but it's no longer safe. The shadow of his affair looms over our every interaction. I've forgiven him for the sex. I was prepared to forgive that when I first asked, but it's everything else. The lying, the lack of respect or consideration, the blame, the intimacy he shared with someone else, kisses and sneaking and going down on her one night and coming home to kiss me and the children, the complete forgetting of our commitment to each other. How do I get past knowing what he is capable of? How do I learn to believe him again? Do I just resign myself to a marriage that could be almost great but never quite makes it all the way there? To know that the best days we have will be about 90% as good as they could have been if he had been able to remember his vows. He shows remorse and contrition and guilt and shame, and a genuine desire to stay married, but I will never feel like I am lucky to have him again. If we reconcile, he will be the lucky one. I will be the one who settled for a man who once forgot I existed on Valentine's Day because he was too busy having unprotected sex with his mistress to bother thinking of his wife. Yes, STD tests have been taken care of. It was so mortifying walking into the clinic with my full panel requisition as though I were the careless, stupid, disgusting and irresponsible one. Is it worth it to take this separation to actually heal separately and find our way back to each other? Or should it simply be the first step on the road to the end? I know we could be really good together, because there was a time that we were, and even when things weren't good we were a great team. But I don't know if that's still true or if it's wishful thinking and I am focusing too much on what I have always known to be true, and found security and comfort in, and not enough on what I've come to learn about him. He believes this happened as a wake-up call to him to be a better man. He wants to be a better man. But I'm a worse woman for it. I'm broken now. I am extremely conflicted when it comes to my feelings and where to go from here, and recognize that this post is a rambling mess that has gone on far too long. Any advice would be appreciated. Your healing should not be about getting back together or ending it. It should be about you healing. It should be about you repairing the damage he has done to you. It should be about you coming out of this healthier and more secure in yourself than you ever were. Don't even consider staying or leaving until you're ready. That is not as important as your health. Give yourself the space and time to rebuild yourself. Once you are in a better place emotionally, then you can decide what you want to do. This right here. Spot on. Everything you're feeling is real and normal, and what most people feel that experience infidelity in your situation. You are absolutely right to wonder what your marriage can be, and you're absolutely right to realize the best your marriage will ever be after this is just okay. This is why only around 15% of couples reconcile. Because you sacrifice true happiness for comfort. You can forgive but you can never forget. And we'll see how long he stays committed to change at the separation. He's doing everything right now. But for many, change is only temporary and old habits die hard. I think you'll feel this unsettled until at least the separation. You need distance from him to resolve your feelings. You can't begin to heal while still living together. You need time alone to process your thoughts and stop babying him in steps he needs to take. Get to mid-June and then really start processing if this has a future. Are you willing to sacrifice that eternal deep happiness with someone? Having a good relationship but lacking full trust? Wondering if he might revert back to the old him at any time? Hi fellow Milso here. I can't advise you on staying or going, that's something you have to figure out. I did read the book Cheating in a Nutshell. Very informative. It sounds like you have enough information to make an informed decision, but are hesitant. I get it. What happens when he deploys the next time? Or has to travel for work? Can you trust him? My answer is no for my situation. What's yours? I think you should focus on yourself for once and stop being so over-involved in the external world of your marriage and WS. Find out who you are beyond him and your kids. And I hate to say it, but being disgusted by your husband for wanting to have sex with you is kind of eye roll. No one should cheat, but I get the feeling you were a rather frigid spouse who was more concerned about many things rather than actually communicating what's going on in your head or being present. Spend some time deciding who you are and what you want in your life and marriage. No denying I was frigid, the ways he'd behave I had no interest. That's not to say I didn't ever want to have sex with him, but the times I did had been fewer and fewer. I recognize that's an issue and it's part of why I tried so hard to convince him we needed marriage counseling. I know some people can separate sex and intimacy, but I am not one of them, and if I'm not feeling loved I am not feeling like sex. I just thought we were out of that phase of our lives. We were so good and so connected and so intimate before he deployed. I think it would have hurt less if he cheated when we were at the point where I was recoiling from him than the fact that he did it when I was under the impression we'd been really solid and on the same page. We hope you have enjoyed today's episode. Please comment, like and subscribe. Cheers. Have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are.